Well, viewers, very recently, the Prime Minister said that those wearing Hawaii chappal should travel in Hawaii jahaz or aircrafts. Now, he also says that he's seeing that happening. Now, while the government on its part has been building airports across the country, in Tier 2, in Tier 3 cities, and encouraging air travel to all classes of people, the moot question tonight is, have the airlines that are operating in India, have they made it nearly impossible for the middle class, for the poor to afford air tickets without burning a hole in their pockets? Now, if you thought that this could be a season for going on a trip, well, get ready to be disappointed. The prices of domestic air tickets are skyrocketing, ladies and gentlemen. Let me, in fact, give you an example. Now, if you're planning for a trip from Bengaluru to Delhi, say, in a couple of days, well, the airfares for tomorrow are as high as 31,000. And well, we're not talking about business class here. We're just talking about regular Janta economy class. And if one has to cough up 31,000 just to go to Delhi, you could just imagine, well, probably some would think, why not go to Thailand? Why not go to Vietnam? Why not go to Cambodia instead? These are domestic air tickets, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, we can go on and on. We've, of course, gone through multiple portals, and most of them, of course, are right now saying that these are surge prices. There's a lot of demand, and that's the reason we are looking at these sort of prices. Now, some routes are seeing surge 4 to 5 times their usual cost. Spot bookings have also become a nightmare. Holiday spots like Goa are looking like a distant dream, really, for the middle class. And airfares, of course, here to Goa, in fact, are showing up to 40,000 rupees. While airlines call it, surge pricing, it really looks like all that they're doing is burning a hole in the pocket of the common man. Now, while, of course, we look at all of these issues, Times Network has questioned the Union Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia about the steps that are being taken by the government to keep exorbitant airline prices under check. Let's listen into this.
So one question, you've mentioned this in interviews and you've said this right now as well. You've said that aviation is a deregulated sector, and rightly so. But we've seen in the past, when there have been emergency situations like COVID, your predecessor in the same government announced price bands and price buckets for certain sectors, and all of this was voted for. So my question is this, that even after this meeting, if you could feel that the prices still continue to be high, what is the next step forward? Because, this is also in the spirit of Sushashan and Garib Kalyan, because people last minute, those who need to travel, for instance, as we've seen in Balasore, for absolutely important reasons, they are the ones who are suffering.
But I will say this, that I'm very clear that even though that this is a deregulated sector, certainly fare rises due to exceptional circumstances, such as the routes that I mentioned, and specifically the cities that I mentioned, where those 315 routes that were being plied are no longer being plied, and we have replaced them with 68 in those very cities. But nevertheless, there is excess demand there, but we must make sure that the maximum prices are within a certain limit, and we have conveyed that message very clearly to the airlines. And as far as extenuating circumstances, it is completely unacceptable if prices go to that high. I will also say this, that pricing, and you must also keep this in mind, has to be measured on multiple metrics. So if I book a ticket, for example, a month in advance, you'll probably get it at the lowest level. But if I want to fly today or tomorrow, it will be probably at the highest level based on that algorithm. But that algorithm also must have a limit, and that message has been conveyed very, very clearly by us. As far as price bands are concerned, you have very rightfully said that those were instituted during COVID. But please also do remember that COVID was an exceptional circumstance. Never before in the history of the world have you had 700 planes sitting on the ground with no passenger on any of them. And at the same time, airlines having to pay the least cost on every single plane. On the other hand, those that need to be travel also need to be protected in terms of the pricing that they need to be paying. And therefore, predatory pricing or extensive pricing should certainly be disallowed. And that's why the price band came in. in a situation where the market determines the price, I do not think that in a deregulated sector one can look at that option. But as I mentioned, the message has been sent very clearly that we cannot have prices that are way beyond what should rationally be done. Specifically when we have certain instances take place, such as the Go First situation or other calamities or extenuating circumstances, airlines must be proactive in terms of monitoring their prices as opposed to being reactive after the ministry or DGCA steps in, because that should also be a part of their social objective. And that message has been conveyed very clearly.
Well, now to discuss more about this, we have Mr. Raghu Chowdhary joining us joining us on this special broadcast. We also have Mr. Devendra as well, who will also be joining us. Well, to Mr. Chowdhary first. Well, I'd like to ask you now, as far as this particular season is concerned, it is holiday season, of course. You, as a person who is very closely looking at people and in dealing with people who, of course, book air tickets for their travel plans, how difficult is it when you, of course, try to convince them that this is the kind of airfare they have to pay? Because for people who've been traveling for quite some time, they do understand that probably travel from Bengaluru to Goa was costing them anywhere between 3,000 and 5,000 in the last couple of years. Now they'll have to shell out anywhere between 6,000 to 12,000 or even more if it's an emergency sort of a booking. So how do you really deal with this sort of a situation?
Yeah, it's a very difficult situation, as you mentioned. It's a very good topic you raised. Actually, none of the other channels has come to this close to this kind of the struggles, the middle class family struggles day by day. The millions of people we see every day in airports, they're struggling with the fighting with airlines and their staff and all those things. We really appreciate your efforts. And coming to this point, like this is not only I heard Honorable Minister whatever he said. Due to COVID, the airline industry is affected, so they are charging 100 rupees thing to 500,000 rupees. It's not what he said, because it's not only airline, it's every industry, every common man, every person is affected due to the COVID. Like, let's talk about the restaurants. The restaurants also suffered entirely. They are not only restaurants, farmers, everybody. Restaurant is not charging earlier 100 rupees meal. Now, because of the COVID losses, they're not charging 1,000 rupees meal, right? So how can this can be? Like, as earlier you rightly said, it was the Prime Minister Modi slogan. Since 9 years, every year we are like, he's trying to become a brand ambassador for this. Even Hawaii Chappal man also can travel in the airlines. Will make a very common, affordable price within the 5,000 rupees within India. That one thing. And psychologically or vitally, every person in this world, not only in India, every person, like whether it's farmer or middle class, every person affected psychologically. Earlier, people used to not travel within 5,000 rupees. Also, they used to think 10 times. But post-pandemic, they're ready to spend 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs also due to stress and all those things. Then that point, every industry is making the cash actually, whether it's the airlines or this particularly airlines actually. What is the search? Like when you say the government is saying within 5,000 rupees within India you can roam. So why, as you rightly said, yesterday evening I was at the airport, Mumbai airport, the family struggles at the belt and the airport. I'm hearing the middle class family, they travel for a holiday. So the last moment the flight cancelled. 3 months back they booked the flight and last moment the flight got cancelled. So they have to take another flight from the airport, which has charged them from Jaipur to Mumbai is 37,000 rupees for one single ticket, economic ticket. Can you believe their family? There are 6 members, including with the kids. Earlier they paid 5,000 rupees. Now they are paying due to some other airlines cancel. These guys has to pay 37,000 rupees for a single sector. So, Cecil, rightly, we can understand the struggle like of the middle class family. The traveling to the one sector within India is costing 50,000, 60,000 rupees today. What is that government is taking the steps? What if the government is taking the steps and when Prime Minister itself...
Let me take that question to Mr. Devesh Agarwal. Let me take that question to Mr. Devesh Agarwal. He's, of course, the chief analyst at Bangalore Aviation. Mr. Agarwal, we've even spoken to the aviation minister, but just giving suggestions that they should regulate their own pricing, it's clearly not helping. We've seen this from the time of COVID. After COVID, of course, when the flight started, this was the same problem. They said at that point in time that they had to make up for the losses. Well, they have, in fact, made up for the losses. We've seen that air travel, of course, has increased quite a bit in the last couple of years. Now, even now, another reasoning that's coming in is because, of course, you had another airline that shut down. They had to make up for it. There's a lot of demand. Now, the question is, if there is demand, if there is surge pricing, there should be some limit to the prices. We just heard, that from Jaipur, they have paid about 40,000 or 30,000 odd. That's not something that the common man should pay. While the Prime Minister is saying that even a person wearing a Hawai chappal should be able to fly in a Hawai jahaz, and he's seeing that happening, can they continue to do that with this sort of a pricing?
Deepak, good evening. Thank you for having me. I was listening. Now, I don't know on what fronts to begin with. The passenger who has paid 37,000, no doubt has been fleeced. There is something called a passenger charter that is written by the ministry. And I can tell you, it is not worth the paper it is written on. Airlines are allowed every kind of excuse to cancel a flight, and they have absolutely no responsibility for, in terms of a monetary liability. If you really want to protect passengers from these kinds of things, where a passenger says, yes, I bought my ticket 1 month in advance and last minute there's a cancellation, the airline that cancels it, make them pay for that person to be transported on some other airline, no matter what the charge. That is one part, predatory pricing. I fully agree. I'm not disagreeing with you. But at the same time, I will turn around and tell you, I completely disagree with your premise that airfares are so high. While you were introducing the whole topic, I did some searches. Okay, tomorrow morning to Goa from Bangalore is 4,000 rupees. From Bangalore to Delhi is some 5,000 or 6,000 rupees. From Bangalore to Bombay is 5,000 or 6,000 rupees. Now, guess what? From Delhi to Bangalore for the same day, the ticket is 20,000 rupees. How is that possible? It's very simple. School holidays have started in Delhi. Everybody wants to leave the city. It's a matter of simple supply and demand. Now, everybody says, oh, there should be an upper limit. Very good. Then automatically, the customer, just like in the agriculture sector, we have the concept of minimum support price. The government will say, or the airlines will say, okay, you want me to cap the maximum price? Let us introduce a base price like we did in the, during the COVID period. Now we are talking about Hawai chappal. The person who is willing to take a risk and book the tickets 2-3 months in advance and pay only 2,000 rupees. Will that Hawai chappal person be willing to pay, say, 6,000 or 7,000 rupees or 8,000 rupees, which the government and the airlines then decide is the base price? There is plenty of lower cost tickets to be had. One has to be a little flexible. You want to travel on a Monday, that is when all business people travel. You want to travel on a Sunday night, that is when all leisure travelers return back to their homes. You want to travel on a Friday evening, that is when all leisure travelers and business travelers are filling up the plane. Travel at, instead of 8 in the morning, be willing to travel at 11:30 in the afternoon, 1 in the afternoon. There are so many flights. Travel from Tuesday to Thursday. I'm looking on the Indigo. I'm sorry to use the name of the airline. I'm looking on the website right now in real time. Goa flight is 4,600 rupees. But if I take it on a weekend, when everybody wants to go to Goa, obviously it's going to be 12,000, 15,000. It's very simple, sir. I mean, let's face it, Deepak.
Mr. Devesh, nobody is arguing. Yes, Mr. Devesh Agarwal, nobody is arguing that. Well, there are particular instances. There are particular. I agree. If you are traveling to Goa, holiday season, especially the weekends, there are a lot of people, of course, who want to do that travel. There, of course, the prices are going to go up, and this is not just with the airlines. You also have the bus fares that go up. That's something that we see quite often. You see even taxi fares, for example, go up. It does, but the question is, shouldn't there be a limit? you're not looking at just a surge. You're looking at exorbitant pricing, and that's where the problem lies. And where does the buck stop is the question. Because if you have prices going up to 30, 40,000 for domestic, fares, is that even reasonable? And the second question here is, now the airlines, of course, have all the rights to, spike up their prices. But while of course a flight gets delayed, while of course it gets cancelled, do the consumers really get anything back? That's the question. We'll come back to that question, but let's listen into what some of the flyers in Delhi had to say and the problems that they've been facing because of these issues.
We want to know from you, sir, how do you see this whole situation, the prices of the flights going up, even after, getting instruction from the minister himself, the airlines continue to do it?
This is bad on the part of airlines. They must obey the instructions of the minister, and it is affecting common people at large, and they must control the price rise in the air tickets.
So we also want to know from you, first of all, sir, how do you view this all things? We have seen how, like the busiest route, if we talk about Delhi to Mumbai, Delhi to Bangalore, Delhi to Kolkata, we have seen how the fares can go up to 60,000 rupees per ticket. And in fact, we can see that, trips to foreign countries here are a bit less expensive. So how do you see this whole issue, sir?
Sometimes, is all the effect on the middle class people, and they can't be afford to be get this much price for the 60,000 or the 70,000 price for just for a 2.5 hour journey. And it's my opinion to the Ministry of the Aviation, they should consider about the less of that price, and is all effect on the middle class people. So, but yes, you are right, says to be the price getting for the international flight is getting the similar price sometime for the last minute. But they should consider for the last minute price doesn't be look like says for the 60,000 and 70,000. They should be like says 15,000. Under the 10,000 should be everyone can afford it.
Well, you heard what they're saying. For the people, of course, coughing up huge prices is not easy. Now the question here is, where does the buck stop in terms of pricing? Can you, in the name of surge pricing, in the name of demand, quote any price you want, because you know that the people are willing to pay a price? And while, of course, you have cancellations that happen on the end of the aircraft, delays that happen, where is the compensation as far as the people are concerned? Because they will have to, more often than not, reschedule a lot of appointments. There's a lot of monetary loss on their end. So where is the accountability as far as, the airlines is concerned? Mr. Devesh.
That's exactly what I was trying to say, Deepak, is that the focus of Mirror now should be making sure that we get the Civil Aviation Ministry to plug that so-called passenger charter. Today, that passenger charter says, if there is air traffic congestion, airline is forgiven. For any reason, the airline is forgiven. You turn around and reach the airport late and say there was a traffic jam on the road, that airline counter fellow will say you should have left a little early. But when it is air traffic congestion because of ATC, the airline is allowed any excuse. The government says the airline shall pay you this kind of, should pay you this kind of compensation. But it does not say by when it should pay that compensation. And if it doesn't pay that compensation, what is the penalty on them? It is very quiet. So everything is, it is literally like expecting somebody to carry water in what we call a channi. Okay, you can't do it. They have given all these loopholes to airlines. So that is the first document that needs to be tightened up and make airlines responsible. Okay, that is where we need to be. That it's seriously, it's nothing else. And when it comes to high fares, I fully agree. I urge your listeners, just do a bit of research. Use a website like Google Flights. It will show you a full month-wise, 2-month-wise, 3-month-wise timetable of fares. You can take a decision on when to travel. You can plan. Little bit of planning will aid passengers. I'm happy, if they want to ever write to me, I can work out something with your channel, and we can give some advice on how to get lower fares. The secret is not traveling when everybody else wants to travel. That's all. But let me get in a word from
Mr. Raghu as well. Right, Ms. Yes, I mean, I get the point. Yes, now the question here is, is the government really going to intervene on this level? Because right now they're saying we recommend. They're only saying recommend. So it's not an obligation really for the airlines to follow in terms of their pricing, and they're only asking them to self-regulate. Can the regulation be brought at the level of the government? Let me take one single question here to Mr. Raghu. If you could tell us, for the people, we just heard Mr. Devesh point out that it's only on certain times of the week, it's certain times of the day, or, certain routes that we see these sort of surges. But, do you see abnormal surging on other times as well when the airlines believes that, that there is, of course, a high demand on this particular route, and consistently over the, over a pattern of 6 months, probably you see, prices increasing. Do you see that often happening?
Yeah, as Deepak rightly said, I don't deny with Mr. Devesh Agarwal ji. He is the senior most and the expert in this. But what we expert in as a customer point of view, I want to say, it's all about the ethics. Let's talk about if you're traveling on the bus or auto rickshaw. If something happened to auto rickshaw or bus, what that bus conductor or driver will do? Just simply give a 10 rupees to you, I refunded your money, go and mid of the forest or somewhere. At least you will take the ethical responsibility. The driver or conductor will call some other bus, and he will put some efforts to make you reach to your destination. Right? Even an auto rickshaw guy. The ethics, let's talk about the ethics of the corporate business over here. It's just simply 10 hours, 12 hours before you simply cancel the ticket, and it's your, they're saying, due to some operation reason, we cancel our flight, you don't take any responsibility, we are refunding your money, that's it. So who is taking the ethical responsibility over here? Is there any okay, let's not talk about the corporate is not taking the ethical responsibility. Is there any regulations or something that the government for the people, they make some certain regulation to the corporates? No, that is also not happening. That's why the people are suffering at airports, people are suffering a lot that is one topic. And second topic, as rightly said by Mr. Devesh ji, he has given some certain destination where non-season, like Goa. At this summer season, at the temperature of 48 and 50, people like middle class, nobody would like to travel to the coastal area or humidity areas, right? Those destination, non-destination destinations were very less, even 2,000, 3,000 also people are getting. So because of flights, some certain destination, not the season destination, some flights are cheaper. So I cannot my customer cannot decide.
Well, Mr. Raghu, what I've seen, we are not just talking about holiday destinations here, Mr. Raghu. We are looking at even a small city connectivity between Tier 1 and Tier 3. When we don't have too many airlines there operating, when it's almost a monopoly kind of situation, that's when we see unfair pricing as well. So probably let's see overall if the government looks at regulation at its level and not asking them to self-regulate. I'll have to cut both of you short there, and that's all time we have to talk about this particular issue. Of course, we'll be once again debating this at length at 8 p.m. But we'll have to move on to